Welcome to Bible Quiz Tube. Today, we're exploring the book of Genesis with 30 fascinating questions about the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Here's how it works. We have 3 rounds of increasing difficulty. Each round has 10 questions. You'll have 5 seconds to answer each question. Scripture references and explanations are provided for each answer. Share your score in the comments below. Round 1. The father of faith, Abraham's journey. These questions explore God's call, covenant promises, and Abraham's faithful response. Let the quiz begin. Question 1. What was Abram's age when God called him to leave Haran? A. 65 years old. B. 70 years old. C. 75 years old. D. 85 years old. The answer is C. 75 years old. The explanation. Genesis states Abram was 75 when he left Haran, Genesis chapter 12 verse 4. This timing shows God's divine purposes often differ from human expectations. Just as Abram began his greatest journey in later life, God can call people to new purposes at any age. Question 2. What specific incident triggered the separation between Abram and Lot? A. A dispute over well rights. B. Strife between their herdsmen. C. Disagreement over worship practices. D. Competition for grazing territories. The answer is B. Strife between their herdsmen. The explanation. The strife between the herdsmen occurred because the land could not support both of them dwelling together. Genesis chapter 13 verses 6 to 7. Abram's response to this conflict demonstrates peacemaking, as he offered Lot first choice of land. Genesis chapter 13 verses 8 to 9. God honored Abram by reaffirming his covenant promises. Question 3. What were Melchizedek's specific titles when he met Abram? A. King of Jerusalem and High Priest. B. King of Peace and Priest of Abraham. C. King of Salem and Priest of God Most High. D. King of Canaan and Chief Priest. The answer is C. King of Salem and Priest of God Most High. The explanation. Melchizedek held the titles King of Salem and Priest of God Most High, Genesis chapter 14 verse 18. His unique position as both king and priest prefigures Christ's dual role. The book of Hebrews uses his priesthood to explain Christ's eternal priesthood, Hebrews chapter 7 verses 1 to 3. Question 4. What divine title did Abraham use after God provided the ram on Mount Moriah? A. Jehovah Shalom, the Lord is peace. B. Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide. C. Jehovah Nisi, the Lord is my banner. D. Jehovah Ra, the Lord is my shepherd. The answer is B. Jehovah Jireh, the Lord will provide. The explanation. Abraham named the place, the Lord will provide, Jehovah Jireh, Genesis chapter 22 verse 14, celebrating God's provision of a ram in place of Isaac. This name points to God's ultimate provision of Christ as the perfect sacrifice, demonstrating his faithful care for his people. Question 5. What was Abraham's specific instruction about finding a wife for Isaac? A. She must be wealthy and beautiful. B. She must be from his homeland and relatives. C. She must be a Canaanite princess. D. She must be chosen by Isaac himself. The answer is B. She must be from his homeland and relatives. The explanation. Abraham insisted that Isaac's wife come from his homeland and relatives, not from the Canaanites, Genesis chapter 24 verses 3 to 4. This instruction reflects the importance of maintaining spiritual heritage and not being unequally yoked with unbelievers. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 14. The careful selection of a wife for Isaac demonstrates the biblical principle of preserving spiritual legacy and the importance of godly marriage. Question 6. At what age did Abraham die, and how was his death described in Scripture? A. 175 years, died in a good old age. B. 180 years, died full of years. C. 175 years, died full of blessing. D. 180 years, died in peace. The answer is A. 175 years, died in a good old age. The explanation. Abraham died at 175 in a good old age, Genesis chapter 25 verses 7 to 8, fulfilling God's promise of a peaceful death, Genesis chapter 15 verse 15. His completed years demonstrate God's faithfulness in granting him full life and seeing God's promises begin to unfold. Question 7. What was the significance of Sarah's laughter when hearing about Isaac's future birth? A. It showed her joy at the news. B. It expressed doubt at the promise. C. It was a prayer of thanksgiving. D. It demonstrated her faith. The answer is B. It expressed doubt at the promise. The explanation. Sarah's laughter reflected doubt at God's promise, Genesis chapter 18 verses 12 to 15. This human response to seemingly impossible divine promises reminds believers that God's power transcends natural limitations. The name Isaac, he laughs, became a permanent reminder of God's ability to turn doubt into joy. Question 8. What happened to Abraham's descendants through Keturah? A. They inherited with Isaac. B. They remained with Abraham. C. They were sent east with gifts. D. They joined Ishmael's tribes. The answer is C. They were sent east with gifts. The explanation. Abraham sent his sons by Keturah away eastward with gifts, Genesis chapter 25 verse 6. This action preserved Isaac's unique position as heir of the covenant promises, demonstrating the distinction between natural descendants and the chosen line through which God would fulfill his redemptive plan. Question 9. How did God describe Abraham's righteousness to Abimelech? A. As a perfect man. B. As a wealthy leader. C. As a prophet who would pray for him. D. As a blessed individual. The answer is C. As a prophet who would pray for him. The explanation. God called Abraham a prophet who would pray for Abimelech, Genesis chapter 20 verse 7. This reveals Abraham's spiritual authority and intercessory role despite his own failures. It demonstrates how God uses imperfect people in his service and the power of intercessory prayer. Question 10. What was the numerical progression of Abraham's intercession for Sodom? A. Started at 100, ended at 10. B. Started at 50, ended at 10. C. Started at 45, ended at 5. D. Started at 30, ended at 10. The answer is B. Started at 50, ended at 10. The explanation. Abraham negotiated from 50 down to 10 righteous people, Genesis chapter 18 verses 23 to 32. This progressive reduction shows Abraham's understanding of both God's justice and mercy. Like Moses later, Abraham stood as mediator between God and those under judgment. Round 2. The promised son, Isaac's legacy. These questions delve into Isaac's life, his relationships, and God's continued covenant. The stakes are higher. Question 11. According to Genesis chapter 25, at what age did Isaac marry Rebekah? A. 30 years old. B. 35 years old. C. 40 years old. D. 45 years old. The answer is C. 40 years old. The explanation. Isaac married Rebekah at 40 years old, Genesis chapter 25 verse 20. This timing shows God's provision of a wife through Abraham's servant's prayerful seeking, demonstrating how divine guidance leads to God's perfect timing in relationships. Question 12. What specific instruction did God give Isaac during the famine? A. To go to Egypt for food. B. To not go down to Egypt. C. To travel to Canaan. D. To stay in Beersheba only. The answer is B. To not go down to Egypt. The explanation. God specifically commanded Isaac not to go to Egypt, Genesis chapter 26 verse 2. Unlike Abraham's journey to Egypt during famine, God directed Isaac differently, showing how divine guidance can vary for different individuals in similar situations. Question 13. What was Isaac's stated reason for claiming Rebekah was his sister? A. To gain favor with the Philistines. B. Fear of death due to her beauty. C. To protect their wealth. D. Following his father's example. The answer is B. Fear of death due to her beauty. The explanation. Isaac feared being killed because of Rebekah's beauty, Genesis chapter 26 verse 7. This echoing of Abraham's similar deception shows how children can repeat their parents' patterns of fear-based decisions rather than trust in God's protection. Question 14. What specific blessing did Isaac receive in Gerar despite the disputes? A. Military victory. B. Political alliances. C. Hundredfold harvest. D. Peace treaties. The answer is C. Hundredfold harvest. The explanation. Isaac reaped a hundredfold harvest in that land, Genesis chapter 26 verse 12. This blessing amid opposition shows God's faithfulness to prosper his people even in hostile environments, fulfilling his covenant promises despite circumstances. Question 15. Where did Isaac build an altar and call upon the Lord's name? A. Gerar. B. Rehoboth. C. Beersheba. D. Sitnah. The answer is C. Beersheba. The explanation. Isaac built an altar at Beersheba where God appeared to him, Genesis chapter 26 verses 23 to 25. His act of worship following divine appearance shows how encounters with God should lead to dedicated worship and memorial of his faithfulness. Question 16. What were the names of Esau's Hittite wives? A. Judith and Basemath. B. Adah and Zillah. C. Judith and Mahalath. D. Basemath and Adah. The answer is A. Judith and Basemath. The explanation. Esau married Judith and Basemath, Hittite women who brought grief to Isaac and Rebekah, Genesis chapter 26 verses 34 to 35. Their marriages demonstrate how choices contrary to covenant faithfulness can bring sorrow to believing parents. Question 17. What items did Jacob use to deceive Isaac when seeking the blessing? A. Sheep's wool and bread. B. Goat hair and stew. C. Lamb's wool and meat. D. Goatskins and savory food. The answer is D. Goatskins and savory food. The explanation. Jacob used goatskins on his hands and neck, and brought savory food prepared by Rebekah, Genesis chapter 27 verses 14 to 17. This deception, though used by God in his purposes, shows how family favoritism can lead to complex moral compromises. Question 18. How did Isaac react upon discovering Jacob's deception? A. He cursed Jacob. B. He trembled violently. C. He fell silent. D. He called for Rebekah. The answer is B. He trembled violently. The explanation. Isaac trembled violently upon realizing Jacob's deception. Genesis chapter 27 verse 33. His response shows recognition of God's sovereign purposes working even through human deception. Question 19. What blessing did Isaac give Esau after Jacob received the firstborn blessing? A. Wealth and dominion. B. Fertility and abundance. C. Living by the sword and serving his brother. D. Priesthood and leadership. The answer is C. Living by the sword and serving his brother. The explanation. Isaac blessed Esau with living by the sword, serving his brother but eventually breaking free. Genesis chapter 27 verses 39 to 40. This secondary blessing shows how God's sovereign choices don't eliminate human responsibility or consequence. Question 20. According to the book of Genesis, who buried Isaac at his death? A. Jacob alone. B. Esau alone. C. Esau and Jacob together. D. His servants. The answer is C. Esau and Jacob together. The explanation. Esau and Jacob together buried Isaac in the cave of Machpelah, Genesis chapter 35 verse 29. This joint act of the formerly estranged brothers shows how death can bring reconciliation and healing to family divisions. Now for the final round 3, the supplanter, Jacob's transformation. These questions explore Jacob's complex journey from deception to divine blessing. Let's get done with this Bible quiz. Question 21. How many years did Jacob serve Laban for his wives, and what was unique about this arrangement? A. 7 years for Rachel only. B. 14 years total, 7 for Leah, then 7 for Rachel. C. 10 years, 5 for each wife. D. 12 years total for both wives. The answer is B. 14 years total, 7 for Leah, then 7 for Rachel. The explanation. Jacob served 7 years each for Leah and Rachel, totaling 14 years, Genesis chapter 29 verses 20 to 30. His willingness to serve twice shows his deep love for Rachel, while God used Laban's deception to build the 12 tribes through both sisters. Question 22. In Genesis chapter 28, what significant dream does Jacob have at Bethel? A burning bush. B. Ladder to heaven with angels. C. Sea splitting. D. Mountain in clouds. The answer is B. Ladder to heaven with angels. The explanation. Genesis chapter 28 verse 12 recounts Jacob's dream of a ladder or staircase extending from earth to heaven with angels ascending and descending on it. This vision symbolizes the connection between God and humanity, reaffirming God's presence and the continuation of the covenant promises made to Abraham and Isaac. Question 23. In Genesis chapter 25 verse 28, how is Esau described in contrast to Jacob? A. Esau was quiet, Jacob was a fieldman. B. Esau was a hunter, Jacob was plain. C. Esau was a priest, Jacob was a shepherd. D. Esau was wealthy, Jacob was poor. The answer is B. Esau was a hunter, Jacob was plain. The explanation. Genesis chapter 25 verse 28 portrays Esau as a skillful hunter and a man of the open country. In contrast, Jacob is described as a plain man, dwelling in tents. This distinction sets the stage for illustrating how their unique traits influence their decisions and relationships within the family. Question 24. What blessing does Jacob receive after wrestling with the angel in Genesis chapter 32? A. Wealth and prosperity. B. Long life with challenges. C. Covenant and name Israel. D. Invincibility in battle. The answer is C. Covenant and name Israel. The explanation. After wrestling through the night, Jacob receives a profound blessing in Genesis chapter 32 verses 28 to 30. His name is changed to Israel, signifying his new identity and role within God's plan. This blessing reaffirms the covenant promises made to Abraham and Isaac, ensuring Jacob's descendants will become a great nation. Question 25. Why does Laban deceive Jacob by giving him Leah instead of Rachel as his wife? A. Prior agreement for Leah. B. Leah's turn to marry. C. Increase family size. D. Older daughter marries first. The answer is D. Older daughter marries first. The explanation. Genesis chapter 29 verse 25 reveals that Laban deceives Jacob by substituting Leah for Rachel on the wedding night, citing cultural norms that the older daughter should marry first. This act of deception introduces a layer of familial tension and highlights the complexities of marriage arrangements in ancient times. Question 26. What significant event occurs when Esau sells his birthright to Jacob in Genesis chapter 25? A. Esau receives Isaac's blessing. B. Jacob gains leadership. C. Esau vows not to curse Jacob. D. Jacob gains the firstborn blessing. The answer is D. Jacob gains the firstborn blessing. The explanation. In Genesis chapter 25 verses 29 to 34, Esau, driven by immediate hunger, sells his birthright to Jacob for a meal of lentil stew. This act signifies a transfer of privileges and responsibilities associated with the firstborn, including leadership of the family and the primary blessing from Isaac. Question 27. How does Jacob meet Rachel, according to Genesis chapter 29? A. At a marketplace. B. Traveling to Haran. C. At a well watering sheep. D. During a festival. The answer is C. At a well watering sheep. The explanation. Genesis chapter 29 verses 1 to 12 narrates Jacob's encounter with Rachel at a well in Haran. Rachel, the daughter of Laban, is depicted as a shepherdess, symbolizing her role and character. The well scene emphasizes themes of love, provision, and the importance of meeting points in divine plans. Question 28. In Genesis chapter 27, how does Jacob deceive Isaac to receive the blessing meant for Esau? A. He hides from Isaac. B. He disguises as Esau with clothes and goatskins. C. He convinces Isaac verbally through the mother. D. He challenges Esau to a contest. The answer is B. He disguises as Esau with clothes and goatskins. The explanation. Genesis chapter 27 verses 14 to 29 details Jacob's strategic deception to obtain the blessing intended for Esau. With Rebekah's assistance, Jacob disguises himself by wearing Esau's garments and covering his hands with goat skins to mimic Esau's hairy skin. This act of deception underscores the complex family dynamics and the lengths to which Jacob and Rebekah are willing to go to secure the future and inheritance of the covenant promise. Question 29. By the end of Genesis chapter 36 verse 43, how many distinct clans are listed as descended from Esau, Edom? A. 10. B. 15. C. 20. D. 11. The answer is D. 11. The explanation. Genesis chapter 36 verses 1 to 43 provides a detailed genealogy of Esau, also known as Edom, listing 11 distinct clans that descended from him. This comprehensive account underscores the establishment and expansion of the Edomite nation, highlighting the fulfillment of God's promises to Abraham and Isaac regarding their descendants and the growth of their respective lineages. Question 30. What strategy do Jacob's sons use to deceive the men of Shechem in Genesis chapter 34? A. They trick them into giving up their wealth. B. They deceive them into being circumcised and then kill them. C. They pretend to convert to their religion. D. They challenge them to a wrestling match. The answer is B. They deceive them into being circumcised and then kill them. The explanation. In Genesis chapter 34 verses 25 to 26, Simeon and Levi agree to Shechem's demand for Dinah to be his wife on the condition that all the males in his city undergo circumcision, which they then exploit to attack and kill them. Congratulations on completing all 30 questions. Thank you for joining us on today's quiz here on Bible QuizTube. Your engagement, every comment, like, and shared insight makes this community truly special. Together, we grow closer to God's Word with every question answered. Did today's questions challenge you? Share your score and thoughts in the comments. Your insight could inspire someone else and light the way for others. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell for tough Bible quizzes, trivia, and encouragement that inspire and challenge. Have a question or topic you'd love us to explore? Drop it in the comments. Your curiosity shapes the content we create and helps us grow together. Remember, every question brings us one step closer to understanding His truth. Until next time, may His Word guide your steps and light your path. See you in the next challenging Bible quiz. Stay blessed.